We're going to talk about the stock to flow model. I spoke about it recently, but I want to elaborate. So hi guys, welcome to the channel. If you are new, subscribe, bell button, comment, like, repeat. You know the drill. So I want to talk about this. A few days ago, I spoke about when to invest in Bitcoin. I also spoke about when not to invest in Bitcoin, all kinds of stuff in terms of how to grow your Bitcoin in a legitimate matter without getting wrecked, right? Basically was, I think a lot of people do look at Bitcoin and go, oh my God, that guy's saying that is going to $1 million. I'm going to buy it and I'm going to be very, very happy for life. I'm often known as a bit of a dream crusher, sorry, but I've got to look at the facts here and what the chart is saying. And I often look at the likes of the stock to flow model as a bit of a it's all based off assumptions, and I want to get that word in right now, assumptions. We're going to talk about it. At the end of this video, I'll give you obviously my honest thoughts. I want to educate you what it is. I want to talk about other things in terms of what the predictions are, other people's opinions, and obviously mine. So let's talk about what it is first. So on Twitter, 3-4 weeks ago, I tweeted about it. I got a lot of cack for it. I got a lot of shit for it. Reason being, I'm crushing people's dreams, man. I am crushing people's dreams. By saying it's not going to $1 million, I'm crushing people's dreams. Do you know that? So just be careful what you're doing and who you read on Twitter. You've got to be realistic, right? And let's talk about what it is in simple terms. It is a way of measuring a resource. Simple as that, right? Scarcity. I would highly suggest, if you are new to the space, check out a book called The Bitcoin Standard. It goes through this in a bit more detail in terms of money, scarcity, how it all works. And I'll be honest, I'm not convinced, right? I don't think that this will ever happen, in my opinion. But I'm going to go over my opinions at the end. So please do stick around. So, if I'm going to talk about this in real, simple, noddy terms, right? iPhone, prestigious, top of the market chain, essentially, of branding of phone. We've all fucking heard of them, right? But tomorrow, they're bringing out a limited edition iPhone. They're only going to bring out 10. So, think of how many mobile users there are in the world. Think of how many people love iPhones, myself included. How much would that benefit the price, having that there's only 10 devices? Well, it's going to be increased demand. But when you start to go to the fact of Bitcoin, and it's got a maximum supply of 21 million coins, we know there's about 4 million locked away or lost, i.e. Satoshi's 1.1 million or whatever it is. You got the people that chucked it in the bin, they're lost over the blockchain, sending it to all kinds of weird stuff and obviously confiscated by authorities. You've got a rough about 3 to 4 million lost. So let's just say there's 17 million in total over the next 100 years that will be churned out that you can buy, provided we don't lose any more within that. That would then measure a scarcity factor of demand, bringing the price levels to gradually increase as the halving model goes into flow, halving every 4 years. So with this, in fact, is it going to work? Now, there is obviously the stock to flow models with gold and other commodities and stuff like that. But ultimately, in my opinion, with Bitcoin, I think there's problems. Yeah, I've said it. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll go over it in a bit more detail. So in terms of this, we calculate the stock to flow ratio using these two metrics. So the metrics are essentially supply and obviously what they've got. You know, that is the mustard, right? Demand, supply, demand, supply. So when you're looking at it in terms of this, how much is actually, from being destroyed or consumed, the stock are usually therefore covered as demand. So you got to look at certain things. How much have we got? How much do people want? Simple as that, right? So let's talk about this. I want to put this article up first because this is just a normal Forbes contributor article. Now this, by the way, if you see anything on Forbes, check to see if it's a contributor. Why? They are opinions of the individual, not Forbes itself. It's basically a paid article, right? Spoiler alert. But we're going to look at this in terms of could be about to surge to 100,000 after stock to flow update. Now, if you're new, this is FOMO material. This is like, oh, okay, I can get a 10x here. Boom. But in my opinion, no. I think that's like so far-fetched at the time of recording, at the time of where it could go. I'm looking at the long-term picture with Bitcoin, and I personally feel, I'm not going to be absolutely, I don't want to go too deep into this and like measure my thoughts, but I think there's far too many obstructions, and I'll come to this in the end of why I believe that Bitcoin at 100k within like literally 12 months, which is what the prediction is, maybe less than that, I think, is pretty mental. When you look at the world right now, when you look at demand of the cryptocurrency space, we're still tiny. We're still very little. If you go to the shops, right, and go, can I spend in Bitcoin, please? You'll go, no. They'll say no, right? They'll look at you like you've just grown another head, right? It's a completely wild prediction, sort of like Bitcoin's used for killing people, isn't it? That's the sort of world we're still living in. We're not there yet. We're nowhere near there yet. And that is where one of the obstructions is. Demand from normal, average Joe people. Even if like a big, massive hedge fund just goes, boom, I'm going to buy into that. Look at Grayscale. How much have they bought? Well, has it really moved the price that much? Well, we've only we've rejected 12k. We've been higher than that in the past when it was a lot smaller and it was all speculation. So we've got to look at certain things like that. Is it really going to measure success long term? This is where we've got to find out. It's going to be interesting to see this and document it. But my overall thoughts is this model is far too generous. That's the word I'm going to use, is generous. I believe Bitcoin will go up in value over time. The scarcity model, economics, the whole model itself works. It works. It works on multiple commodities and assets and all kinds of things across time. However, I think it's turned up a bit too much, and generosity is there. There's too many obstructions and issues with that. And you're even looking at this here. In Christmas 2021 should be around or above 100k. We're looking at pretty much a year, give or take a year. It's nearly September of 2020. That is a long, long time. It's not a long, long time. It's a massive price jump in a very short amount of time, isn't it? We all know that. So let's look at it in terms of what it is. This is a visual version of it. Whether it's, this is like I kind of like this. I think it's quite cool, realistically. And there is a lot of future backing with it, and you can see how the halving element is working with the scarcity and how it's it is in line. But when you start thinking to yourself, the mathematics of it has to basically double in price every couple of periods. Like, basically, I think it works out every year it's got to double in price. And I've got to look at that and think, fuck off. There's absolutely no chance in hell of doing it, in my opinion. Even when you're looking at October time, it's potentially going to be 18k. Like, we're on target right now, roughly, give or take. But we're looking at going up to like these levels very, very quickly. And if it happens, I'll be honest with you, more than happy to be proved wrong in this case. But I think December, looking at a rough $30,000 of Bitcoin, and you think, there's a global pandemic, the UK is in a recession, unless people are going to go, right, bollocks to this, right, the world's going to shit, I'm going to buy a Bitcoin with my wealth. I find that hard to believe when you consider what has happened in the past over the last few months with huge volatility crashes. People are not going to go, I've got 60 billion there just sitting in Apple. Oh, fuck it, fuck gold, I'm just going to put it in Bitcoin. I can't see that happen. I see a trickle, I don't see a lot of wealth though. As it stands, it's too volatile, man. We lost 50% in one day. Can you imagine, right? If you've got like billions of dollars and you go, Bitcoin looks like a good idea. Okay, yeah, fuck it, just drop 50% in one day. Oh, bollocks to that. It's different gravy. So this is what it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's all opinion, but my opinion is I think there's too many obstructions. We've got futures. We've got demand elements of, there's actual bypasses of Bitcoin now, whereas back in the day, when you think about it, you had to buy Bitcoin to buy an altcoin. Now you just have to put your credit card in a place and you get your altcoin. There's a big, massive bypass there. So that's obviously a thing. But yes, there's interesting elements of this, but I think it's far too generous. And if you look at this, we are looking at $1 million. So can you imagine this billboard advert, right? invest in Bitcoin, it's going to 1 million in 2025, right? People would look at you and go, fuck off. They would, because they'll just go, red flag, red flag. You know, they would, because it's like going into a stock market and saying, right, buy Tesla now, it's going to 100k. You go, what? That's basically the same sort of math, same sort of element with it. You go, and that's where the monetary value of it is far too generous. So let's look at this as well as an article. CoinDesk put this out. It's relatively new, actually, 30th of June. And the chief officer and fund manager of Strix, oversees quantum research and strategy development, risk management, portfolio allocation. And there's a massive post on this, like huge. It's fucking massive. I read a bit of it before. But obviously the stock to flow ratio, but this is where the problems lie. This becomes an obvious when one extends the model into the near future. By 2045, the model estimates Bitcoin will be worth a lot of money, right? 235 billion. Is it? Yeah. To get my words right. So when you look at that as an issue, that's a massive issue in my opinion, because it's got to double pretty much it is doubling. It's like compound, it's doubling every year. And that's where the biggest problems lie. It doesn't make economic sense in that way, because as much as Bitcoin is awesome and you can split it up into so many different Satoshis, it works in that way. But imagine having like 20, 30, 40 Bitcoin. And I'm like doing the maths in my head and thinking, where the fuck does it come from? How does it appear? How does it go to that value? And can we cash out in that? Can we use it? There's all kinds of different metrics in, like, they're all assumptions. They are assumptions of where it can go. So in my opinion, one, we're assuming that we can cash out into fiat at this point. Two, we're assuming that the scarcity model is going to carry on as it goes with the likes of the miners, with the likes of the mining difficulty and stuff like that, the cost of mining. There's all kinds of different assumptions. You've then got futures. That is my point on this as well. Futures. Futures is designed to kind of like scale back a little bit in a way where people can obviously trade it and play against it and make money. And the amount of Bitcoin that can be accumulated in wealth, transfer of wealth essentially through the trade and exchange is going to be massive. But for me, I don't see Bitcoin going to anywhere near the levels that are predicted, in my opinion. I see it going up in value as a nice little steady increase in obviously the economics, the basic economics of it. But to start predicting that Bitcoin and a scarcity is a thing, I can't imagine that many people, with the amount of altcoins out there and the different variation of altcoins, Bitcoin becoming that one that becomes $1 million. I do feel we're very early. We're going to get a lot of money out of it. It's just one of those things. If you're early to the game and you're doing the right thing and you're accumulating and you're stacking up, and Bitcoin is eventually at some point worth $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 at some point, you're going to be doing all right. You're going to be doing all right in life. But ultimately, when you start considering this and you start thinking, well, Johnny age 47, who sometimes puts his finger up his bum, is telling you on Twitter that Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million in 2025 with only this as a model to kind of back it up. You got to think, say, well, how? You know, what's the other data telling us? What are the search engines like? How many people are buying Bitcoin through exchanges? How many new people are coming to the space? How many people are actually leaving the space because they've been FOMOing in at the tops on likes of Chainlink and other coins like that? There's so many things and variation you got to look at, and we are so early. We're not even, we are early. The second biggest altcoin is not even like 6 years old yet. That's like, well, you know, they're tiny. It's such a baby industry. So, please guys, I know my thoughts are a bit scattered in this video, but if you are looking at this and you're thinking, ooh, Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million, just buy Bitcoin and sit on it. That's all you need to do, right? If you physically believe that. If you're going to get weak hands though, and it dumps down to 6k tomorrow, and you shoot yourself and sell, well, this industry is not for you. Bitcoin is a long-term investment. It's like buying gold in the early days. It really is. But please control yourself. Be calm. I don't think it's going to go to 1 million. My honest thoughts.